welcome back to the Krueg Show, everybody. Thursday night edition of the show. Everybody had a great day today. Today on the live stream, or tonight on the live stream, Ryan's on a date. Ryan's on a hot date, so we're going to let Ryan get on with his date. Dan Cochimilio joining us, not from Arizona, but from a Embassy Suites business class accommodations. He's just down the street on Treat Avenue, so Treat Boulevard, I should say, in Walnut Creek. So just have anybody, if you're Snapchatting Danny and you see Walnut Creek, he's at the Embassy Suites in town for a wedding. And then Big Frank Red on the bottom. Frank, joining us again. And hopefully we're going to see the dungeon returning. I was talking to Matt Steinmetz the other day when I was sitting in on 95.7. I'm actually sitting in for Steiny tomorrow. Okay. And I'm like, and I was talking to him and Guru, and I go, hey, Steiny, I didn't realize you know Carl Foster and you know Frank Red. And he's like, oh, yeah, man, I love those guys. So Steiny says hi. I'll be sitting in for him tomorrow with Guru. Do you know Guru at all?
Guru used to call my show. And,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, we actually text back and forth in a dialogue a little bit now. I am so proud of him because he really came up the way that people dream of coming up,
Right.
As a
he got a shot on the contest, yeah. Right?
Yeah, but
he's terrific. I'm on with him tomorrow at noon.
No, he's an awesome guy. But, he should call Gary's show pretty consistently. And every now and then he would give me a call on Sunday nights. But I'm so happy and so proud of that guy because it doesn't happen that way. Right. It's been miraculous. And at the same time, he's carved out a nice piece of the sports talk pizza for himself in the Bay Area. I couldn't be happier for the guy.
Oh, I mean, he reminds me of Ratty.
Okay.
And the reason for it is because Gary always brought energy on the radio. And the one thing about Guru, love him, hate him, agree with him, disagree with him, man, the one thing that he just always brings is just this great energy. And he's organic, he's a real fan. He's not like playing a role on the show or anything, or at least from what I can tell. But we've been friends on Facebook for years. And now that I'm at 95.7, it's been cool to kind of fill in with him. And I'll be on tomorrow with him talking a lot about the Warriors. And I don't know what direction you guys want to start. We could start with any direction. I did wager tonight on Thursday Night Football, Danny. I don't know if I told you I did decide to go wager, and I went and I was sitting there and I had an hour or so to really break it down today, which is always, that's when I really start to overthink it. Right? That's when I really start to lose bad, is when I have time to actually break it all down. So I'm breaking it down, and I see Houston does not have Brandon Cooks, and they're the worst run defense in all of pro football, giving up like 180 yards per game. And I'm thinking, man, it's going to be Miles Sanders going off. And sure enough, Sanders went for almost 100 yards and a touchdown. Philly ran for almost 150 in this game. Hurts was outstanding. Philly's the only undefeated team. So I took Philly. It was a big spread, so I teased it. I said, you know what? I'm gonna go teaser, and I've been doing this one on a lot of the primetime games. I'll take the side that I like, tease 7.5 in their direction, and then go under. These primetime games are going under at just a ridiculous pace. So tonight, I should say, I called my bookie, my son at Cal Poly. And I said, get me down on the Eagles on the teaser to the under. So I had Eagles -6, under 52.5, and they wind up winning 29-17. It could have ruined it for me at the end as Houston was trying to make a touchdown to make it 29-24 in the fourth quarter, but Philly got an interception late in the game to ice it. Philly, guys, how legit is Philly? I mean, CJ Gardner-Johnson has been just an absolute awesome player. He had a pick tonight. Bradbury was a nice pick, nice pickup. He had a pick. Javon Hargrave had 3 sacks. What do you think if Philly just added Robert Quinn? And Quinn did not get to the quarterback tonight. But how legit is Philly? I mean, like, can the Niners roll into Philly in the playoffs and beat Philly? What do you guys think?
I think so. I mean, Philly is legit, but I still think the Niners could go anywhere and on the road as they proved last year. And I think they're a better team offensively this year and defensively. And it's all contingent upon health. But if they've got their health, you know, that play goes anywhere. And so,
What,
Philly,
yeah, I mean, Philly, the only thing about Philly that worries me is that, man, Hurts puts a lot of pressure on you because he can run it and throw it. He's exactly what the Niners want Trey Lance to evolve into. Exactly, right? He's smart. He makes plays. He's a leader. He puts a lot of pressure on defense. But, it's interesting. The Caesars has posted the Eagles 17-0. Do you think they can run the table? I know Mercury Morris and the Dolphins are rooting against it, but Caesars has posted a 17-0 record for the Eagles at 11-1.
Nah,
and I'm looking at it. They do play Dallas on Christmas Eve in Dallas, and they do get Green Bay in Week 12. Other than that, guys, I mean, Philly could run the table. Philly looks terrific right now.
They have a great team. I mean, they are the epitome of a balanced team. I mean, literally on defense and offense. I haven't seen a quarterback make such a meteoric rise since probably Monday night, the Dallas Cowboys quarterback after his first
Tony
year.
Romo. Dak or Romo?
No.
Roger Staubach going way back?
No, I can't. I'm drawing a blank now. No, he's on Monday Night Football.
Aikman?
Yeah, Aikman.
Troy, yeah.
Yeah, Troy. I mean, his first year was rough, and he kind of put it together. I'm the biggest Jalen Hurts fan, but, I mean, everybody has a bad game, right? This guy has not had a bad game this year. And to think that he could go 17-0 without any hiccups is –
it's hard to believe.
Yeah. So I think they will lose a game. I'm rooting for Jalen to continue to play well, but I think at some point he will have a hiccup.
He completed 78% of his passes tonight. I mean, that's pretty damn good. I mean, granted, it's Houston, but it was in Houston. It was on the road. Dallas Goedert had a big night. He had 8 catches and he got in the end zone. He had 100 yards. But I mean, I just think that when you look at Howie Roseman, the GM for the Eagles, and the job that he's done, drafting Hurts, and then the pickups. I mean, going after A.J. Brown in the offseason, drafting Devontae Smith. So now he's got, 2 really, really good weapons. It sounds like they made a run at Kareem Hunt, but they couldn't get Kareem Hunt. Wow. But, you look at that Philly team on defense, they had Fletcher Cox, but they had C.J. Gardner-Johnson in the secondary. They signed Hargrave a couple years ago. They just added Robert Quinn. I don't know. I mean, I think the 49ers are so battle tested. And so, they've been to the Super Bowl. They've been in the NFC title game. Almost everybody in the room's got some postseason experience. I don't think if they lose in Philly to the Eagles in the playoffs, it won't be because they were intimidated. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I think the 49ers would feel good in the NFC playoffs against Dallas, against Philly, against New Orleans, against the Giants, against Seattle. Not to mention Green Bay, Tampa Bay. I don't know. Maybe I'm just optimistic coming off of a nice win against the Rams coming in the bye, leading into the bye week, but I just don't see any team. Now, Buffalo and Kansas City, now they may be on a different level. Right. And the Super Bowl may be ugly. But as far as NFC playoffs go, if I'm a 49er fan, I'm saying bring it on. I'm feeling pretty good about the way things look.
Yeah, they could beat anybody. I mean, when you talk about balance on offense and defense, the 49ers are right there. And with Kyle Shanahan on the sidelines, if it's folklore or if it's real, but most people think that the 49ers have a better side when he's calling plays against any other team. So they're right there. I mean, I love their front seven. Their DBs are decent, but the strength of that defense is definitely within their front seven. They're good as anybody. And I'm going to tell you something. Jimmy G might have had better stats in various games, but one sequence last week when he went through 3 progressions and he hit McCaffrey in the end zone. I've never seen him move in the pocket like that, undeterred from, like the pass rush. He's usually jittery back there. I thought he was awesome. He's playing some of the best quarterbacks he's ever played before.
It's funny. I think McCaffrey, guys, might be just the perfect offensive weapon to add to Garoppolo. Why? Because I don't know that you got the tackles to get the ball deep, but you still need dynamic playmakers in your offense. Here's a guy you can hand it to, you can throw it to, he can do every gadget play. Right. It doesn't have to be down the field, so you don't have to worry about, can you protect long enough, or is Jimmy's deep ball going to hang? You don't have to worry about that. You just added a dynamic element to your offense. And it plays right into their strength. Then you mix in the fact that Ayuk is establishing himself. He's got 38 catches, 483 yards, 4 touchdowns through 8 games. He leads all of the Niner receivers, including Debo. And to me, it just is a matter of, can they get healthy? Can they get Armstead back? Can they get Aziz back? Can they get Greenlaw back? Is Kinlaw coming back? Obviously, you need Debo back. If they can get Juwan Jennings, and Elijah Mitchell, if they can get their guys back, I'll take my chances. I feel pretty good. I think they feel the same way.
Now, they got great personnel. And, the teams, you named them, Philly, the 49ers,
Dallas, Minnesota.
Yeah, but I think the 49ers personnel offensively is better than Dallas, to me.
I think the Niners defense is better than Dallas too. I think you can run on Dallas. We saw the Niners go in there last year and just run on them in the playoffs. So we'll see. Now let's jump, since we're only going to go for 90 minutes tonight. Let's jump from topic to topic. Let's jump into the World Series real quick. Houston gets a 3-2 win on the road in Philadelphia, and what a game, man. That game just went on and on and on. Very long 9-inning game, but the Astros get the pivotal win in Game 5. And I like the Astros at the beginning of the series because I just think Astros are so much better. 106, 107 wins. Philly won 87. Houston's the better team, and I'm rooting for Dusty to get this. To me, this is Dusty's best chance. This Astros team's really good. Their pitching's incredible. They threw a combined no-no, in Game 4, and then win Game 5. So, to me, I really felt like tonight's winner for sure. I liked Houston at the beginning of the series. I really felt like tonight's winner would win the series. So I feel good about the Astros. They're just the better team. This kid Pena is a stud. The shortstop who hit one out. Right. Is that Tony Pena's kid, Danny? Who's is it? Let's find out who Pena's dad is, because Pena's dad, they said, played in the big leagues. But I don't think is it Tony Pena, or was it the Pena that the Dodgers had in the bullpen? I'm not sure. There's been a lot of Penas in baseball history, but that kid he's awesome. And
I just thought Dusty, what he's been criticized for, really did a great job tonight managing the pitching. Getting Verlander out, letting him go 5, and then going to the pin, and then the move to go to Presley in the 8th.
Yeah, for the 5-out save.
Yeah, right. Great move. He didn't hesitate. He saw Montero didn't have it, and got him out of there. And I think he was setting up Presley obviously for 1 inning in the 9th, but he was forced to go to it because Montero was wild and was putting guys on with the walks. And so I thought Dusty, he's been criticized a lot for his managing of the pitching staff in the World Series. And, man, he really did a great job tonight.
Did you guys see who it was? Real Muto, right? Who hit that bomb to center that was caught?
Oh, unbelievable catch.
What was that? Is that Chaz whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a phenomenal catch. Real Muto with 1 out in the 9th against Presley, down 3-2, hits just a bolt of lightning to center field. And the Astros center fielder went back, dove, made this incredible diving catch. That's a for sure double, probably a triple.
Oh, might have bounced away.
Chaz McCormick. Yeah, Chaz McCormick went 0 for 4, but man, what a catch. What a catch from Chaz McCormick. I don't know. Where are you guys with the Astros? Because I know that the nation was rooting for the Phillies. I get it. Houston cheated. But you know what? To me, it's like we go too far. We go too far with these things. It's like, to me, the Astros are no different than Barry Bonds. Is Barry Bonds one of the greatest players of all time? No doubt. Is he a first ballot Hall of Famer? No doubt. In my mind, he deserved to have been a first ballot Hall of Famer. But was the single season and the career home run records, authentic or fraudulent? They were fraudulent. All right. So guess what? He's still fucking awesome. And those records were still fraudulent. Right. And I feel the same way about the Astros. They're banging on the garbage cans and the fact that the GM got fired and the manager got fired and the players didn't lose anything, really. They just lost a little face and had to take some criticism. But the players kept the World Series rings, kept everything, every penny they've earned. They all kept everything. The only guy that paid the price was the GM and the manager, AJ Hinch and Lunau. They paid, everybody else skated. So I get the America's desire to boo the Astros and bang on drums and this and that. But if you're going to go further than that and try to say that they're not a great team or that they're somehow just all, is all this big, hidden card trick, that's a bunch of crap. Altuve is incredible. This young kid Pena's just gotten there, but he wasn't there for the previous stuff. But Pena's hitting 381, I believe, in the playoffs or in this series. Bregman's special. Tucker, Alvarez, Gurriel. I mean, this is a damn Maldonado, the defensive catcher. I mean, the Astros have a very special group of players that I don't know. That's just my own personal pet peeve. It's like, did they cheat? Yeah. Do you want to boo them for cheating? I get it. But I'm rooting for Houston. Why? Because one, I'm rooting for Dusty. But the other thing is, I just think that if you want to get these guys to boo them all, they cheated. Okay. But let's not try to take away more than we should take away from Barry or from the Astros. That's just how I feel. I feel like the Astros are an awesome team that people kind of slough off because of the whole, cheating situation, as opposed to, hey, they cheated, they paid a price, or at least somebody in their organization did. And let's move on. I don't know. How do you guys view the Astros? I know we're all kind of tied to Dusty because Dusty's a sack guy, and I know Dusty, Frank, but what do you think? Well, I mean, are you with me rooting for Dusty and tired of people, crushing the Astros, or are you pushing back and saying, hey, they cheated, they got to live with it?
I mean, I respect baseball fans because a lot of them actually are historical and they live and die by the purity of the game. I get all that. I don't necessarily. Dusty's my guy. Dusty Baker gave me my first interview.
Really?
Yes. Dusty
Baker.
Baker.
Do you remember where you did it?
Candlestick.
Okay.
Yeah. And
what year? What year are we talking?
I don't know. It was over 20 years ago. But
wow.
But this is an incredible story. It was a sports banquet in San Francisco. I'm just starting, just getting into business. And all of a sudden, I'm wide-eyed and everything. And Dusty comes out of the auditorium because I had a couple of tickets. Someone gave me some tickets. And I said, hey, Dusty. He goes, hey, big fella like that. And I said, I'd love to interview you, right? So Dusty goes like this. He goes, listen, I'm going to be in the Dominican Republic for 2 or 3 weeks. But call the Giants system and leave your name, and I'll give you a call back. 3 weeks later, Dusty Baker calls my home phone, and he goes, listen, I'm going to be in L.A. This is my personal number. Don't give my number to anybody. I'm like, holy crap, right?
Right.
So I call, leave a message. We set up a time to do an interview at Candlestick. I get out there. I'm early. Dusty gets out there maybe 30 minutes after we had planned. I literally spent like 3 hours with Dusty off air, just kind of talking about life. This man is incredible. Cool. Yeah. So I'm a big time Dusty guy. I mean, he was Hank Aaron's rook.
Yeah, he was in the on deck circle when Aaron passed Ruth.
Yeah, so I mean,
think about that. That's baseball history right there.
I mean, if ever there was a Renaissance man that's still very prevalent in our society, in the sports arena, it's Dusty Baker. I mean, the way that he galvanizes all of his teams. The guy is taking 5 teams to the playoffs. That's not by mistake.
Has he had some high profile postseason gaffes? Sure.
Yes.
But you can't deny his leadership ability. You can't deny his ability to galvanize a group of men. Did it with the Cubs, did it with the Giants. He's really done it almost everywhere he's gone. Cincinnati.
Washington.
Yeah, Washington.
Houston.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. How about Giants 0-2 and then Cubs 0-3, both of them in the NLCS. Right. 0-2 Giants were in the World Series. Cubbies, had the Bartman thing in 0-3.
Right.
But I mean, Dusty, and Ned Coletti said to me, and I remember we had Ned talking about this, and I asked him one time, I'm like, give me your evaluation of Dusty. And he's like, look, you can evaluate a manager a lot of different ways. You can evaluate a manager strictly on a 1-loss record. You can evaluate a manager on what his players say about him. You can evaluate a manager on, what how the staff feels. And then there's different ways to evaluate a manager as far as, there's the first inning to the 9th inning, but then there's the 9th inning to the first inning. And I'm like, well, what do you mean by that, Ned? And he got into it and he's like, look, there's all the things that you see, double switches and pinch hitting. And did he pull the pitcher? Did he stay with this guy? All that. That's the stuff that happens in the game. But then there's a whole other aspect of it when the game ends. How do you get your guys from that point to the next game, first pitch, ready to roll? Right. And he said that Dusty was the very best from the last pitch to the first pitch, so after the game's over and you're trying to get the guys ready for the next day, he was really, really good at keeping the group together, keeping them fighting, keeping them, on edge, so to speak. And this is a guy, Ned knows his stuff. And so he had that compliment about Dusty. I can just remember all those years when Dusty was with the Giants. And there were times where, look, his job and my job were not the same job. His job was to manage the team and really be the vocal face of the team when Barry would tell the media, go screw yourself, right? They were looking for a quote. Barry said, get lost. Kent said, get lost. They would go talk to Dusty. So, and Rich Aurelia and Daryl Hamilton, a couple other good veterans, but not Barry and not Kent, despite the fact they were the stars. And Dusty fronted that. And then guys like me, we were on afterwards taking phone calls and breaking the thing down. So there were many times where, he didn't like what I said, or, he didn't like how I framed it. And, we would occasionally talk, or he would just, and, the guy just was very grounded. I can remember one time we were in his office and somebody in baseball had passed. And he just kind of was looking around and he knew the guy. And I forget who it was. It was an old manager. And he looked up and there was only like 4 of us in the room. And he's like, fellas, tomorrow ain't promised to nobody. Mm-hmm. So whatever you're going to get done in this world, get it done today because you don't know about tomorrow. And it was such a poignant comment. It was such a life impacting comment too, for me as a young person, just to hear, somebody kind of verbalize, our mortality on the planet and just how you can use that as motivation and turn an invariable negative like passing into some kind of a positive lesson. But he's just a very wise guy, a lot of wisdom. His players swore by him. And, I just hope he gets over here because to me, he won in 81 as a player. He lost the 2 in the late 70s to the Yankees. He won in 81. He got redemption. It would be kind of cool after having lost in 02 for him to get redemption here on the World Series stage. And it would be incredible. So I'm rooting for him. I think he gets it done.
20 years later, wouldn't that be something?
Wouldn't it be something?
I mean, I would love to. I would love to see it. I mean, we can all reflect back on was that JT Snow picking up little Darren at home plate.
Little Darren's now a hot prospect in the minors, right?
Right. So I mean, the history that he has with the Bay Area, and I think with baseball in general. Tony La Russa gave him his first opportunity as a hitting coach.
Yeah,
it's just a lot of history, man. And you know, I've never met someone on that level espouse such wisdom to his players. Like I played football and basketball in college, and played baseball in high school. I would have loved to, play for Dusty or someone like him. I mean, Dusty and I actually talked about hip hop. This dude knows a lot about everything.
Oh my God, he's met Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, oh my God, there's several great Dusty stories. I mean, I can tell you about when he came in to do an interview at Sports Byline USA. Right. Had a great little session with him after that interview. Dusty is, one of a kind, and he's been up and he's been down and he's felt. I mean, he you know what? You see somebody and sometimes people will say, oh man, this guy's led a full life. Mm-hmm. And, Dusty in baseball, forget out of baseball, but just in baseball has led a full life. When you think about what he viewed, from Hank Aaron and the racial taunts and everything that Hank went through, which was like almost like people could never even understand that now. And to see that and to see the evolution of society and then him go from this incredible player in the 70s with the Dodgers to, a hitting coach who was respected and then a manager, Barry Bonds, his first manager in 1993. I'll still say it to this day. One of the greatest managerial efforts I've ever seen in my life was Dusty in 93. He showed he had no experience managing. He had managed a little bit in the Arizona Fall League, and he just showed up every day and he just said, we're going to try to win today. We're going to do everything we can do to win today. And we're not worrying about stacking our bullpen for future dates or holding. No, we're going to play to win today. And that team was one of the most incredible baseball teams I've ever seen in my life. I mean, I'll still say it. I think that's the best Giants team of all time. Now, I know Kapler and the boys won. What did they win, Danny? 107?
107.
Yeah, and Dusty's 93 Giants won 103. But I'll put that 93 Giant team up against any Giants team. That was an incredible team with an incredible pen, with Barry Bonds at the apex of his Hall of Fame career, and Gold Gloves everywhere. Men wearing. Will Clark, Robbie Thompson, Royce Clayton, Matt Williams, Darren Lewis. Remember D. Lou?
Mitchell still on the team? No.
Bonds, and they had Willie McGee in right field.
Yeah.
It was great.
Was Mitchell gone?
Mitchell was gone. Yeah, Mitchell was gone.
Yeah, and then you had John.
But the Mitchell, the Mitchell was gone, but the Mitchell aftermath trade guys were all still there. You had Mike Jackson and Dave Burba in the bullpen with Jeff Brantley, Rod Beck, but you also had Billy Swift, a 20-game winner, who also came in the Mitchell trade from Seattle with John Burkett. Both those guys won 20 in 1993. So that was a great team.
Yeah, and everybody gets on them saying they blew the division because they were up 10, 12 games on Atlanta, but Atlanta didn't lose the second half.
Yeah, what happened was the terrible Padres GM, Randy Smith, handed Fred McGriff at the trade deadline to Atlanta. And then they had a huge fire in the press box that day. The same day they get McGriff, they have a massive fire in the press box at Fulton County Stadium. They got Fred McGriff for Melvin Nieves, Vince Moore, and a pitcher named Donnie Elliott. I mean, just 3-0s. And they had Fred McGriff in his prime. And from that point on, they won 80% of their games and, ran the Giants down. Giants won 103, Braves won 104. And that was the birth of the wild card.
Yep, that was the birth of the wild card.
Yeah, unfortunately, the year after.
Been the birth of the wild card and the additional wild card added this year because of the Dodgers Giants in 106, not the additional wild card, but the format changing from a 1 game to a 3 game, because it was like LA almost got bounced after winning 106, and you know, now they don't have.
Braves got bounced in the playoffs that year by the Phillies. In fairness, I don't know that the Giants would have beat the Phillies, but I don't know that the 93 Giants would have beaten the Blue Jays with Berto Alomar and Ricky Henderson and Winfield and, you know, I mean, they were just awesome. I mean, the 93 Jays had Olerud and Molitor and, you know, I mean, it was an incredible team, and they won back-to-back, I think, 92, 93. That was the second of the 2 years. So who knows? Maybe the Giants wouldn't have won the World Series that year, but that dusty year was magical. And every time I've had a chance to talk to him about it, he always said, man, that 93 team was my best team. And I wonder if you asked him, and I'd love to hear him asked on the podium for everybody I'd love to hear his answer. How would you compare 93 Giants to this year's Astros team? And I'd just be really interested to hear what he has to say, because the Giants pitching staff was really good that year, but they were a little thin in the rotation. This Astros staff is awesome.
Solid.
It's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's just good to see Dusty hopefully win it. The only thing I will say that I was kind of disappointed was the game they lost 7-0, that he didn't let Dubon just come in the ninth, make an appearance, you know, just to say, hey, you know, you might only get to one World Series in your lifetime. And the kids from SAC, you know, Dusty's from SAC, go ahead and give him a token inning just to say, hey, I played in the World Series.
Well,
you know?
We'll see. Maybe it'll happen. I'm not a Dubon fan, by the way. I don't have that warmth for Dubon that you have. Let's jump over to the Warriors. Warriors have not won on the road this year. They're 0-4 on the road trip. They've lost in Charlotte, Miami, Detroit, and tonight in Orlando. It was 130-129. And Orlando was 1-7 coming into this game. Golden State now with the losses 3-6 or 0-4 on the road trip. They finish it up tomorrow night in New Orleans. The final sequence, they doubled Clay. They doubled Steph, forced it to Clay, and Clay missed a runner with a sequence that was only 4.9 seconds left on the clock. And if it had gone, they would have won by one. Instead, they lose 130-129. What do you see with Golden State? I mean, filling in on 95.7 the game, I mean, they're all up in it as far as, the Warriors. And so they're breaking it down like, 7,000 different ways. We're 9 games in. Part of me says, hey, let's pump the brakes. Kerr said in the post game, it's time to try something different on the bench. Tonight, Steph with another great night, 39, 3 rebounds, 9 assists, 17-7 for Looney. Big night for Clay. You got it going early. He had 27, 9, 5, and 7 for Green. Wiggins had 15. Poole is struggling, and he's not playing well. He had a poor game. He shot 4 of 12, 1 of 5 on threes. To me, guys, what I see is the Warriors are bad defensively, and I'm not sure why. Nobody fears their D, which was really good last year. It's really not good this year. And nobody respects them defensively. They're beating their starting 5 off the dribble just regularly, getting into the lane. They've added 2 really athletic pieces in Kuminga and Wiseman, and both those guys suck right now. Kuminga can't get on the court. He's DNP coach's decision night after night after night, and Wiseman's just playing crap. He had 2 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal. I mean, he's just bad. I mean, I don't know. And he's starting to show his frustration right now. And Orlando is damn good. And Jalen Suggs hit some big shots in the fourth quarter. Banchero he's a beast. I mean, he's really, really good. He shot 1 for 6 in the first half. He had 4 points at the half. He shot 6 for 6 in that third quarter and finished the night with 22 and 8. So what do you guys, what's your read on Golden State? I mean, what changes do they need to make? What is the issue with Golden State? I'll say this: Orlando shot 31 more free throws than the Warriors. So the Warriors are just fouling. They're not defending, and then they're fouling, and they're sending the other team to the line at a crazy rate.
It wasn't 31 more, was it? Wasn't it 31-22 or something like that?
No, it's 31 more free throws from what I thought. That's right. Let me check. I can check. But
if that's the case, I was on the flight and the doggone Wi-Fi was down on Southwest, so I couldn't watch the.
Yeah, Golden State shot 10 or let's see, 10. They shot 15 free throws, and Orlando shot 46 free throws.
No way! Oh my!
Yeah. 31 more free throws. You're not beating teams if you're giving them 30. You can't spot a team 31 extra free throws and beat them.
That's automatic 20.
I mean, it really does illustrate how much they're struggling on that end of the floor. They're not defending. I'll tell you what I see, Frank, is I see a Warrior team that Looney, Clay, Steph, Green, that's like the foundation of their starting five. That's 4 of their starting 5. All those guys lack quickness. They're not really quick, so they don't get to loose balls. They don't get to long offensive rebounds that, there's a lot of 3 shot now, so the rebounds go longer. And so you got a lot of loose ball in the middle of the floor situations, and they're not beating anybody to these loose balls. So I don't know if it's just that they get everybody's A game. They haven't gone 0-5 on the road. They haven't gone 0-5 on the road since 2002. So it's been a while.
Well, let me say this: the Warriors are actually playing good enough to lose. In
every night.
Yeah, in previous years, they probably would have itched out 2 or 3 of those wins. But as you have stated, these up and coming teams, their coaches have to win. So, I mean, the one thing that you can do as a coach, if you galvanize your team, is you can get them to play hard. Every team the Warrior plays, it's playing harder than they are. Now, when you look at GP3, you look at Juan Toscano-Anderson, those were 2 of the Warriors' top 7 defensive players. When the Warriors go to their bench now, the guys that they put in are not great defensive players. Now, I'm going to say this. I watched Kuminga against Detroit, and I watched him against Charlotte. He didn't necessarily play well, but I thought that he did hustle. To me, Steve Kerr, consciously or unconsciously, I'm not going to say he holds grudges, because I can't get inside of his head, but To me, to have a guy like Kuminga not get on the floor in an energy game, this is an energy game.
Yeah.
It is really inexcusable. I don't understand why. And Dave, you talked about that. You talked about him getting reps. I don't understand why Kuminga wasn't on the floor based on how he hustled against Charlotte and Detroit. So that's one thing. The other thing is toughness. They're definitely missing some toughness compared to last year's team. And with Kerr, saying that maybe we need to try some things differently, I can see Rollins getting a couple of minutes out there because he's just sitting on the bench. He's a young guy. I think if you tell him to go out there and play hard, he's going to do that. Poole is struggling. And
Poole's been terrible, and he's the key to the second unit.
Yeah, we're going to watch Poole, though, because he came out, after the incident and the first couple of games, he was fine. He's going to be a science project this year because he needs to be picked up. Who's picking Poole up right now?
It's a great question. And then not only that, Orlando in the second half of this game, 27-10, they beat Golden State on the glass.
Yeah.
You're minus 17 on the glass in the second half. I mean, and the other thing that I'll tell you, the disturbing stat is not a stat for tonight's game, but for the season. Golden State's minus 43 point differential in the fourth quarter. Minus 43 in the fourth. I mean, my goodness, it's almost like, I don't know, and here's the thing. I don't know. Is it one of these deals where when you play meaningful games in June and May and June that you just can't get up for November basketball? Because that might just be it. Or is it, I actually kind of think that GP2 he was such an incredible player last year. And I don't know that Kerr ever really appreciated him. I don't know that people really understood that he got to all these loose balls that are now going to the opponent. And without him, the Warriors aren't getting to them. Not only that, they lose Peyton. Peyton was a dunker in the lane. He finished in the lane. So you're losing paints in the point, or points in the paint. Easy for me to say. And you're losing a defender, and you're losing your quickest guy to loose balls. I just think that they miss him. They miss him dramatically. And Kuminga and Wiseman were going to be some of the athleticism to kind of compensate for not having the, GP2, but Kuminga can't get on the floor. And Wiseman, I don't know. Wiseman's he's either not this, super tough guy, or he's just very laid back. He doesn't seem like he's got a natural instinct to rebound. He doesn't challenge every shot like the way I'd want him to at 7-1. And he just seems like tonight he tried a little screen for Steph, and it was kind of half-hearted. And then Steph kind of gave him a weird look, and then he kind of dropped down on the block and gave Steph kind of a bad body language thing. I don't know what's going on, but they are they're plus 33 with Steph on the floor. They're minus 62 when he's on the bench. And Wiseman, the plus minus on Wiseman's not great either. And when Wiseman comes on the floor, the Warriors get worse. And it's not like a one-night situation. This has been going on the whole season so far. So
it's I saw a statistic tonight. Their starting five with Clay and Steph, Draymond, Looney, and Wiggins lead the league at plus 27, I believe it is, with 100 minutes played or more. They're the number one team in the league when those five are on the court. So that tells you the problem is the bench. The bench is just not gelling together. And
Kerr says he's going to look at different combos.
Yeah, I think you're going to see different combos. I wouldn't be surprised if Wiseman sits for a while and they go more to Kuminga. I even wonder if
I wouldn't sit Wiseman. I wouldn't do that.
You would not sit Wiseman?
No. I think Wiseman doesn't have great hands. I thought that he did. I mean, I've seen him drop a fumble 5 lobs this year that are like clear, easy baskets.
Yeah.
But
I know. We saw it last year too.
Yeah, but I would coach him differently. I wouldn't worry about his fouls. I would say, listen, if you foul out in the first half, I don't care. What I would teach him is aggressiveness. When he gets a couple of fouls, he just kind of stands around, and he rarely gets any offensive fouls because he's being over physical. Now I love his personal coach. I think he's made great strides, but emotionally he loses it sometime. And I think that you have to decrease the amount of responsibilities and say, listen, if you get an offensive foul because you're boxing out, that's okay. But I want you to go out there and be physical. Don't be dirty, but you have to be a physical force out there. And they can create stats around that to assess his effectiveness. But I think he needs to play because he has the talent, but emotionally, when he gets down, he seems to drift. And he has to be a factor for them. He has to.
Can you? I mean, it's almost like they've got this. It's almost like the Niners and the Warriors have the exact same problem. It's like the Niners are trying to develop Trey Lance and go to the Super Bowl, and the Warriors are trying to win the NBA title and develop James Wiseman. And it's like, right. Can you do both? Can you do both? Can you develop a young player and give him minutes maybe he doesn't even deserve, maybe he hasn't even earned? And how does that impact the rest of the guys in the room and that kind of thing? But you're talking about, Trey's got to play when he's healthy, and yet, how good is he? And then James Wiseman's got to play when he's healthy, but does he deserve those minutes? I mean, let me give you an example. Tonight, third quarter, 3:42 left in the third quarter. James Wiseman enters the game. The Warriors are up 11. It's 90-79 Warriors. 3 minutes later, with roughly 39 seconds left in the third quarter, he leaves the game after he blew a rebound and had a technical foul, and it was 96-94 Warriors. So their lead was 11 when he came in, and 3 minutes later, he's leaving the floor, and it's a 2-point game. And we've seen that. So it's like, what's the priority? And I asked this question with the 49ers. What's the priority? Develop Trey or go to the Super Bowl? And which is going to take priority? And that was when Trey was healthy. And I'm like, how long are they going to go with Trey before they say, you know what, Trey, take a seat. We're going with the veteran. We're prioritizing winning this year. That decision got made for them when Trey hurt his ankle. Right. The Warriors have that decision right now with James Wiseman. I don't know, Frank and Danny, if there's room for minutes for both Wiseman and Kuminga. To me, they're both fives. I know Kuminga's got small forward size, but he ain't a small forward, not game wise. He's a small ball five. And that, I don't know. That's what I see with Kuminga. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know about Wiseman. It's like, to me, his hands don't look great. All I really want him to do is run the floor and not foul. Not just come up with fouls left and right. So stay on the floor, run the floor, rebound, defend, challenge shots in the lane. That's it. And it's like he's and we know he's got the ability to do it, but and I don't know. It's like Jerry Rice as a rookie in the NFL looked like he had bad hands, and all he became was the greatest receiver that ever walked the earth. Right. So is it bad hands or is it nerves?
Yeah, I think it's nerves. And I think Wiseman's going to be okay. I think he can be coached up. Because when you see him, he's off balance when they throw him alley-oops. Because he's thinking about, I got to catch it and then I got to dunk it. Nah, just react to the play. And I think he's going to be okay.
He's thinking too much.
Yes.
He's thinking too much, yeah.
He's thinking too much, and he's also not making quality fouls. He's running the court, but again, I know sometimes players get upset when commentators go, he's an emotional player. I mean, so what? I mean, people are emotional. There's nothing wrong with that. Wiseman is not a guy who moves on to the next play. He appears to live with bad plays. And that's all coaching. It really is. So I think he's going to be okay, but he cannot stand around. I see too many times where he's standing around, he's not boxing out, he's not aggressively going for rebounds. And that's what he needs to do. And I think that they have an excellent coaching staff. They're going to coach him up. But they have to make sure that when they see him standing around, get him off the floor. His energy level has to be there. Boxing out, going for rebounds, running the floor. We can all visually tell when someone is playing hard. When Wiseman's not playing hard, you got to get him off the floor.
Would you, if you're Bob Myers, how long do you let this go before you start to say, you know what, our mix might not be right, and let's at least discuss making some moves? Because I'll say this, if they decide at any point they want to move a Kuminga, there's going to be 20 teams that will have interest, and there'll be some interesting players coming back. And if they ever decide they want to move James Wiseman, I know people would say, well, he's a bust. Yeah, you might not be able to get LaMelo for him now, but you'll get something. And then there's the Draymond Green decision, where Draymond Green, a lot of people feel, is going to opt out at the end of the year. I don't see it that way at all. I think he's due to make $28 million. He's not going to get $28 million from anybody. I don't think he's even going to get a long-term deal that makes it interesting or even viable for him to not opt in. So this talk that he's going to opt out, no, he's not. He's going to opt in. So the question then is, if you're Golden State, do you want Draymond? Here's the question. This is a major question for Myers. And this is a tough one too. I think Draymond Green's key to winning, and like really key to winning. And I know you do too, Frank. Danny, I know you do too. We all think he's a key factor in winning. I don't think personally they would have won any titles without him. But I also don't know that I want to be there as he faces his NBA mortality and deal with that every night. And, when he's just so volatile and he's a leader and he has such an impact. So the question is this: what do they do with Draymond? Do they do nothing and just try to win this year? And then if he, when he opts in, consider trading him, or maybe you keep him for 2 more years and let him walk in free agency. Do you try to then sign him to some reasonable deal so he can finish as a Warrior? What's your end game with Green? Or would it be best if they tried to move him and see if they could go forward and win a title with this next crew without Draymond? What's your thought on Draymond? Because to me, this is like the pivotal decision of the franchise. And Steph obviously has to be involved in this decision, which is, he's going to want to keep Draymond for the most part. Nobody plays off of Steph better than Draymond. But, there's pros and cons here. How do you guys see the Draymond decision?
I read something. I saw something tonight that said that they're not going to trade Draymond. I don't believe that's the answer, trading Draymond this year, unless there's something.
Zach Lowe had that in his article that had a quote from somebody in the Warrior front office saying that as of right now, there's no plans to move Draymond at any point this year.
Yeah, I don't think
that could change.
That could change. The only way they trade Draymond, and it would have nothing to do with on court. It would have something to do that there's a something going on in that locker room that the cohesiveness is not there. Otherwise, there's no reason to trade Draymond. I think Draymond is actually playing. He looks better than he has in 3 years.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Dan. I would put the onus on Draymond. When I watch the Warriors play, even when they're losing, he's not the reason why they're losing.
Right.
And aesthetically, when they look good, he's in the mix. He's passing the ball well. His defense is not what it used to be 5 years ago, but he's no slouch on defense. He's still making key plays. He plays intelligently, and he's actually looking for scoring opportunities in ways this year that he wasn't doing in the past. So, you know what? I mean, I'm a Draymond supporter. I think they play it out this year, and if he picks up, then he has another year next year. Put the onus on him and his agent to go out and find the money. And if he finds the money and he even wants to commandeer some type of trade package from the Warriors' perspective, I think that he has that level of equity, because only like 3 or 4 teams that he's going to go to that you could really rationalize paying him $20 million, right? He can't help a bad team. So I think
he could show a young team how to win, and there are a lot of young teams that don't know how to win.
Yeah, but I mean that's true.
I could see him in Detroit. I think he could help them win.
Their players are too good, though. I mean, who's he going to go in there and play over?
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true.
I mean, they got a lot of guys who can play basketball. I mean, if the front office is solid, I could see him going to like a Cleveland and helping Cleveland win because they're ready. They're pretty darn close now.
What if you're a team like Sacramento trying to build a culture? Would you take Harrison Barnes and Davion Mitchell for Draymond Green and get down the road if you're Golden State? And would Sacramento do that deal?
Ooh.
Well, because here's why I bring it up. Here's why I bring it up. Mike Brown's trying to establish a culture, and the culture ain't there. And Draymond would help. Barnes has got 1 year on his deal. Barnes is palatable to the Warrior players and team. They like the Senator, and then Davion Mitchell, I think in some ways has a little bit of Draymond Green in him, as far as he's a defender. He's tough. Right. He's a tenacious. You can feel his will out there. He's small. But people talking about, hey, there's a lot of Warrior fans expressing their discontent so far, Frank, and Ty Jerome, and they need a second team point guard. Well, Davion Mitchell would really be a phenomenal second team point guard. And if you really want to make the emphasis about Kuminga and Wiseman and the younger guys going forward, that would be painless. What do you think?
I mean, physically, it's an intriguing deal. The problem that I have with Draymond going to Sacramento is, I mean, the first time that he blows up at Mike Brown, what effect is that going to have on the team?
Right.
I mean, they love him here because they know him, and it's like our family members that no one else love, but we all love them. We all love him or her or they or whomever they are. It could go really well or it could go really bad. And I don't know if you take that chance, but
it's a gamble.
It's a big time gamble. It really is.
Frank, because
what were you gonna say, Danny? You're cutting out there for a sec.
Am I cutting out right now still? Or
no, you're all right. You're all right.
I think Frank makes a great point, because the moment if Draymond does do something that crosses a line, Sacramento doesn't have that veterans that Draymond's been with, and Curry and Clay and Andre, and they, like you said, they all know him and they know how to deal with them.
Sacramento's got some young talent. They just don't have a culture, and he at least would author a new culture there. I think it's a win-win. I think it'll be a win for the Warriors because they get out from underneath this declining player who's going to have a hard time. And then let's be honest, Kuminga's not a small forward. Kuminga's a 4. And if you're going to give Kuminga minutes and you're still going to play Wiseman, somebody's going to have to not play. I don't know. I mean, I'm just throwing that out.
It's
I just think that
intriguing proposition, man. It really
is. It absolutely is.
You're saying for Harrison Barnes and Mitchell?
What's that? Yeah, I said Green to Sacramento for Harrison Barnes and Mitchell, Davion.
Now, what do you do though with Barnes, because he's kind of just a backup? He's similar.
Well, I think I play. Give him some of those minutes at the 4. I think I would play Harrison as kind of a, I mean, I think that's the advantage of Harrison is he can play the 3 or the 4. Mm-hmm. He's got size that's bigger than your typical 3-4 combo. He might be a little bigger than Draymond. He's about 6'9".
No, he is bigger. Bigger. I've stood next to both of them. He's a little taller.
Taller.
6'8". He's legit 6'8".
Yeah. And they love Harrison. Harrison's a terrific professional too, where, if you really want to bring your I think Harrison is never gonna be the player that Draymond was, but Harrison has other strengths, and I think he would be a nice role model for some of the young players they have on this team.
No question about that.
Unit. I feel like the second unit needs somebody like either Wiggins and Poole playing together or Wiggins and Clay playing together, just to get some offense out there, some shooters.
Offense. They're one of the best offensive teams in basketball.
Oh yeah, but the second unit I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying the problem isn't the first unit. The first unit has the top.
The problem is really not offense; it's defense. They were the second best defensive team in the NBA to Phoenix last year. I think tonight after the game they're 26th.
Yeah.
Oh, they're awful on defense right now.
They're playing Matador D.
Yeah, and I don't know. GP2 added so much last year with him out there. He was like a miniature Draymond. I mean,
very underrated player.
Yeah,
I mean, he hasn't even suited up for the Blazers, which makes me kind of worried about what the Blazers may be.
Right. Another thing that's missing right now is DiVincenzo's been out with that hamstring. When he comes back, that makes probably moves Ty Jerome back more to the bench. DiVincenzo is not a great defender like GP2, but he's pretty decent defender. And he can, hit the jumper. He's a smart player. I think that changes a lot when they add him back to the rotation, and I would expect him back in the next week or two.
Not to make myself like right or anything, but actually, Taj Jerome hasn't been bad. He's been okay.
No, he does some good things.
I'm just saying, looking at the team, they're not maximizing the personnel that they have. And the one thing about Mike Brown last year, I think he had a great deal of autonomy for that defense. And because he had the autonomy, he could get in guys. And they had marginal NBA players at that point that were literally fighting for minutes that he could probably get into. Remember, Mike Brown coached his team to a vital playoff win last year.
Yeah.
Atkinson, he had success in Jersey, but does he have the relationships yet to deal with those really tough moments where we're like, yo, guys, they've gone on an 8-0 run. What the F is going on here? You know, what happens when he does that? I don't know if he's doing that, but they need to play better defense and start with effort first. That's not Steve's job. Steve is kind of he finishes the sentence and puts it all together. But whomever is responsible for that defense is responsible for scheming. They played some zone well against Miami. I think they could have played more zone. Whatever they need to do, they need to play better defense because they're not locked together as a unit.
No question. How about tonight? They're taking on a Orlando team. I think it's like third worst in the league from the 3-point line, and then Orlando lit it up from the 3-point line. And then Kerr in the post game talked about the offense. He's like, we've got to attack more and get the ball into the paint. We're launching a lot of threes that are not exactly bending the defense.
I would agree with that.
So that's the problem. It's interesting where Golden State goes from here because, some of it's going to just have to be, from within. But I think if I was him, I would start to tinker a little bit with that second lineup and figure out if I can move some guys around and just see if I can give a different look. Because right now, it's like, they're doing the same thing, same kinds of rotations, and they're getting beat repeatedly. So, we're it's 10:15 almost, and we're only going for another 15 minutes. So we are already on for an hour here. If you just tuned in, we've already touched on the World Series, Thursday Night Football, and the Warriors. Let's get into the story of the day nationally, and that's Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving, I don't even know what to say about this guy at this point. And it's interesting because if I'm reading Jason Whitlock has the most ridiculous stances on Kyrie. It's almost comical. But the Nets suspended Kyrie for at least 5 games without pay today. And they are not happy with his repeated failure to unequivocally come out publicly and say he has no anti-Semitic beliefs. He's had multiple opportunities. I don't know if you saw that exchange the other night. It was embarrassing. You had a writer asking him about, hey, you tweeted out, support of this. He's like, I'm not supporting it. Well, it's your platform and you're tweeting things out. So that we're all interpreting that as you endorsing it. It comes across like an endorsement. But he's had multiple, I believe 3 different opportunities to take the podium and to separate himself from this. And he's just so freaking stubborn that he just refuses to. It's like the NBA commissioner is Jewish. I don't know about you, but to me, it never seems like a good thing to rip the religion of the boss. You join a company at a job and all of a sudden you're like, hey, let me find out what religion my boss is and I'll rip it publicly. How's that going to go for you? So, this is Kyrie has refused to issue an apology of any real kind. Adam Silver was obviously looking for him to do that. He had his media exchange the other day where he really came unglued and just started kind of screaming at the media people. And it's like, what's the NBA going to do? I don't think they really wanted to suspend him, but at the same time, they wanted him to separate from his comments and separate from the film that he seems to be promoting. and he's refused to apologize and refused to separate himself from those from comments and from this documentary. In fact, Irving said, "I'm not the one who made the documentary." He was later asked whether or not he had any anti-Semitic beliefs, and he did not say no. That seems like to be almost an opportunity. He's looking at it as something other than that. When somebody asks you to express something that is going to get people off your back, you may want to go along with it. And instead, he said, "I cannot be anti-Semitic if I know where I come from." And then the question, all he had to say was, "I don't have any anti-Semitic beliefs," and I think the thing would have died down. I don't think he would have gotten suspended. So now, Irving and the Nets had announced in conjunction with ADL that each would be donating $500,000 to anti-hate causes. So there's that. I don't even know where to go on this. I mean, as far as the NBA as a league, there is one Jewish NBA player currently in the association right now. It's Denny Avdia. And I can't even imagine how he feels, how there's just nobody's really come out and said anything about this. Frank, Danny, give me your thoughts. I mean, Kyrie has stated many things that are just bizarre. The earth is flat. He's got all kinds of different beliefs. They suspended him indefinitely, but there's an awful lot of Jewish people in New York City. This might be just an untenable situation. I can't really picture how Kyrie goes on from this. I mean, I know that sounds incredibly like an overreaction, but you're going to have these anti-Semitic comments. You're not going to back away from it. If you back away from it now, it's not going to look genuine. And you got the whole world watching, and you're right there in New York City. I just think that this is he's crossed a line here that I don't know that he can cross back over. And I don't know. I mean, I think I heard people suggesting maybe he's played his last game as a Brooklyn Net. I'll go beyond that. If he doesn't walk away from or back away from his statements and do some serious soul searching and damage control on his comments and his actions here, he may be pissing away his NBA career, and he is an all-star. I mean, I've never seen that. This is one of the most dramatic stories we've seen in a long time, I think, and I think we're going to hear an awful lot more about it in the days ahead. Give me your guys' thoughts. Any direction you want to take it, feel free.
Kyrie's got a little bit of Colin Kaepernick in him, in that he's kind of really has got other plans outside of basketball, it appears. I mean, last year he was fine.
It's not about money, right? He's walked away from a lot of money. It's not like he's motivated by money.
Right. So to me, he's got some other agendas that he wants to get across, and he's using basketball to make his statements. I mean, he seems to have a attitude toward the media that he almost looks down on them the way he wants to. He really likes to really get into the media and argue and make them look like they're not really thinking clearly and they don't understand what he's trying to say, and he's not really making it easy on him to let anybody know what he really is trying to say. I understood him in a way with the vaccine because that's just his personal choice. And I think he got tired of answering the same question. This one, I don't know, man. It's just like he had the chance to say, who was that? Mark Spears that was asking the question. It sounded like Mark Spears.
Right.
And all he had to do is say, I'm not anti-Semitic.
Nick Liddell was the person.
Friedel. Okay.
Yeah.
All he had to do is answer the question, say, no, I'm not, like Larry said, I'm not anti-Semitic. I have nothing against, Jewish people at all. So, in fact, I, have a lot of friends, or I care for the Jewish people. That's all he had to say. End of story, move on. But for something going on, he's got ulterior motives here, it seems to me.
I think there's a lot of irony with regards to Kyrie, because he actually did say that. I mean, if you go to the first interview that he did, it started to become elongated. But Kyrie said, I don't have any hate against anybody. He did say that. He did say that. Now,
True.
Larry, you educated me, and I've been talking to some other folks. See, I didn't know necessarily, and I'm glad that I'm not like a social media whiz, but I didn't necessarily 100% know that if you post something, I don't post anything, but I didn't know that if you post something, you are promoting it. I did not know that. But in the broadest sense, I get it now. And I'm wondering, again, if Kyrie said, am I really promoting this? I mean, maybe he needed to be educated about what his actions are, because I'm not quite sure that he necessarily knew that. And I mean, you have to weigh, did it have some negative information? A lot? Apparently so. I don't allow myself to even go there. But he could have said, yo, there was a couple of things in it that I thought was worthwhile for everybody. It's not about hate. And really kind of explained himself. He didn't do that. He got into a tete-a-tete with the reporter, and it kind of got away from the essence of whatever he was thinking about, because we never really got to that. At this point, if he's caused harm, and he clearly has, I don't understand why he wouldn't be willing to say again, I apologize to people that I offended by my actions, and just kind of walk away from that. I don't understand why that's that hard for him. You mentioned the word stubborn, Larry. Did you say that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that might be part of it.
He seems to be dug in.
Yes.
Like, and why? And I'm not, you're getting an opportunity to kind of clarify.
Right.
It's not like you have to you could say, hey, look, you guys have misunderstood me. Believe me, I love the Jewish people, and I have no issue with them. And I had no idea that this film had this in it, and separate himself from the film and from his action. Instead, he's had this opportunity.
That's not hard to do.
I mean, the Nets released a statement, guys, and they said Irving, quote, is currently unfit to be associated with the Brooklyn Nets. We were dismayed today when given an opportunity in a media session that Kyrie refused to unequivocally say he has no anti-Semitic beliefs, nor acknowledge specific hateful material in the film. This was not the first time he had an opportunity, but failed to clarify. Mm-hmm. And then they go on to say such failure to disavow anti-Semitism when given a clear opportunity to do so is deeply disturbing and is against the values of our organization and constitutes conduct detrimental to the team. Accordingly, we are of the view that he's currently unfit to be associated with the Brooklyn Nets. And the Nets also went on to say that they've made multiple attempts in recent days to try to help him understand kind of the danger of his words and his actions and the harm that it's created. And it's pretty clear that he doesn't get it. He's not, or if he gets it, he doesn't care. He refused to apologize again after practice, saying only that he had meant no harm. He said things in I guess the film is called Hebrews to Negroes Woke Up. Or Hebrews to Negroes Wake Up Black America. That was the name of the film that he promoted by putting it out there on Twitter. And then he said, hey, I'm not the one who made this documentary. And then he was asked if he has any anti-Semitic beliefs, and he didn't say no. I mean, I don't know why. I mean, like, he was asked, does he have any anti-Semitic beliefs? He says, I can't be anti-Semitic if I know where I come from. And then he said the answer to the question, do you have any anti-Semitic beliefs, is always no, without equivocation. I don't know. It's I don't know what, I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen here. I mean, I know they're going to try to do damage control. I just don't know that if anybody at this point, if he does damage control at this point, it's like you have one chance to kind of right a wrong. And when you miss that opportunity, then it's not like you can say, oh, So now wait, now I've been suspended. Now I've had something taken away from me. Now I'm going to apologize. Now it's going to come across like you don't really believe it, or you don't really mean it, that you're only apologizing because of the harm that's been done to you and the money you've lost and right. So it's a PR problem for the league. And then you've got on the other side, guys, you got people ready to say, hey, NBA, you're doing deals with China, and you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. And are you really for are you really for all that's right in the world, or are you trying to force Kyrie to say what you want him to say, but you're still going to take money from China and all the atrocities that go on there and not think twice? So there's lots. This is a very involved issue, but it's one that's not going to go away. And I kind of think there's a chance that Kyrie, unless something major happens here, could be, if the Nets say goodbye, how do you bring him in if you're a different team? And then the other thing, a lot of people are pointing to the Udoka situation too, that the Nets are saying, Udoka, come on down. But Kyrie, get out of here. And They're looking at selective morality and going, how consistent are you guys with your moral compass? So there's Kyrie, a lot going on here.
I mean, here's the one thing that I don't get. Kyrie, like a lot of people, says things that floor us all, right? And we go, wait a minute, flat earth and stuff like that. But this narrative that Kyrie is not smart is completely false.
No, he's very smart.
I mean, that's a false narrative. And I think that you make an excellent point with regards to his relationship with the media. He doesn't respect the media. He doesn't. And because I don't think he does. I can't speak for Kyrie. His actions would suggest that he doesn't feel he's on an equal level with them. I think there's probably somebody out there that could have a conversation with him and maybe kind of get to the core of whatever he's thinking, but it's not going to be the guy or woman or whomever who he feels has somehow harmed him. That's not going to happen. And Larry, and I mean, all people in the media are not angels, and they're not nice people. Not everybody. So, they're
not always your friend.
No, they're not. And sometimes the general public doesn't understand that. But you have people on both sides. Most of them are great people. And I can speak from experience. But there are folks out there that like to dig a little deeper than others. And that rubs some athletes the wrong way.
I would just, if you're going to have strong opinions that are going to go against the grain, then be ready to clarify intelligently. Don't start lashing out and attacking people when they ask basic questions like, hey, you retweeted this, you put this, you essentially, however many followers, he probably has 1 million followers. You put out to 1 million people this as if you were promoting it. I don't know if you know what's within this movie, but this is what was there. Now that you know, are you going to take it back? Do you realize it's caused a lot of harm? And instead of just kind of acknowledging that he did do that, he did put that out there. He just was like, hey, I didn't make the movie. Hey, and he got very defensive, and then it turned into I personally think the NBA would not have touched this and wanted no part of suspending him at all. But the fact that he had 3 opportunities in the media, and with each opportunity that passed, he didn't clarify, didn't apologize, didn't express any remorse, and actually started to attack the people asking the questions. I think the league was left with no choice. Like, hey, we have to get involved here because, as you know, Frank, from being in New York City, maybe there are some markets where you can just kind of bark at the media and they'll go away, but that ain't one of them. And and that wasn't going to go well. You know what I mean? Maybe Kyrie, got over on the one media guy for a few minutes, but guess what? There's going to be more people asking more detailed questions. And, this thing was about, if it wasn't an election week with so much hanging over the election nationally, all these media shows, that emanate from New York City would be all over this. He's lucky of the timing because they're so fascinated with the national political election and the midterms and all that they really they're giving Kyrie kind of a passing eye, like, we'll let the sports community deal with that. But if this is still an issue 10 days from now, it's going to be on Good Morning America. And he's going to, and the league's going to have a bigger problem than they have right now. So I think Silver's trying to get out front but it's going to be interesting because the Nets, Joe Tsai may decide he's done with Kyrie. He's got a lot of money. They're in a weird spot as an organization. Who knows what the Nets are going to do? And if the Nets did say goodbye to him, I think he would be a very difficult player to bring into any situation going forward unless he clarifies his comments.
Yeah, and also, what do you guys think this has an effect with KD? I mean, he wanted out. Maybe he wanted away from this dysfunction during the off season. Now he's got a whole nother year of more dysfunction. Do you think at some point that KD just says, you know what? I came here with, I just want out of here. I can't play in this situation.
Absolutely. He would say that. I mean, listen, KD's 34, 35 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not looking for a rebuild. That's why he wanted to leave in the summer. So you're right. I mean, listen, if the Brooklyn Nets were looking at this scenario strictly from a business standpoint, they would send Kyrie home. This 5-game suspension would turn into a really highly paid vacation, right? And then you know what? Because it's the NBA, unless the powers that be collectively said, he's not going to be in our league this year, and the NBA has done things like that before. We can go back to Mahmoud Raouf when he didn't stand for the national anthem,
right?
I mean, he went away forever. So it's not out of bounds to think that could be a possibility. I tend to think that there are some teams that would open the door for Kyrie, and maybe they would have to be. I mean, there would be some type of re-explaining, some type of middle ground that I think that could potentially be reached. But the Brooklyn Nets have dug into the point now where, I mean, they're just playing ball. I mean, this is not a team. I mean, Emmy is an excellent coach, but he's not a psychologist. He's not a miracle worker. I mean, so I don't know what's going to happen there, but this is bad.
Yeah. No, I mean,
with the Warriors struggling and Wiseman kind of struggling and Kuminga not getting any playing time.
Yes.
Could we see possibly some?
Yes. The answer is yes. I mean, well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
What's the question?
I think Frank knows where I'm going with KD and the Warriors.
in a deal for Kuminga and Wiseman?
And
a little more than that. A little more than that.
Well, okay, that is actually really interesting. Why don't we finish on that topic?
Wiggins would be.
Are the Warriors trying to do something that they got in they did last year, which was they had all those young fellas on the team and they said we're not gonna trade James Wiseman for Bradley Beal and try to get good this year. We're gonna see if we can win a title as is and then win and develop at the same time. They won. I don't know how much they developed because Wiseman didn't play. Kuminga played last year. Moody barely played. Now here we are a year further. Should Golden State continue down this road of doing two things at once, trying to win and develop their young core, or should they pivot off of their young core and make a trade or two and see if you can turn a Kuminga or a Wiseman into one or two or three rotation players that maybe don't have their future upside, but help you win a title? At this juncture, should they try to get Clay and Steph and Draymond and Looney, that group, one more ring, maybe one or two more rings, or should they stay the course and stay with Wiseman, stay with Moody, stay with Kuminga, and maybe fall short of a title this year, but stay with their original plan to try to transition from this era to the new era? It's a major question, and I wouldn't fault them as long as they have a conviction about what direction they go. I could be convinced that either direction was the right path. What would you guys do? If I said, Danny and Frank, you guys are Mike Dunleavy and Bob Myers. You're the architects of this thing, and you can either stay with the plan with the two different kind of teams and try to do what you did last year, do it again, or pivot from where you're at and really try to load up. Because what I'm seeing that first group is a little past their prime, and the young group is not quite entering their prime. So would you rather get rid of some of those young guys and get guys actually in their prime and maybe win another ring or two? How do you view the Warriors situation? They're in a very intriguing. They got a lot of assets and there's a lot of expectations.
Yeah, you will go first, Amigo.
Go ahead, Frank.
Danny's like, yeah. You want you go first on this one?
Listen, the reason why the Warriors are so great at this point is because they literally go for a championship every year. Right. And I respect that. And I think that's Joe Lacob's DNA, and everybody associated with that organization kind of follows that lead. If the Brooklyn Nets walked away from Kyrie, right, and said, listen, we're going to take our team back, we're not going to deal with this, KD has to be moved. If I'm the Golden State Warriors, I'm waiting for the phone call because it's probably going to happen because Brooklyn is starting at the bottom again. All right.
But then they may not have a lot of leverage there. You were saying that the Warriors would have to trade more than Wiseman and Kuminga. If Brooklyn's in that spot, Frank, don't they have no leverage?
Well, no, because there are other teams out there that also would want KD. But KD would have, I think, some preference with regards to where he wants to go. He's not going to go to a team that he doesn't want to go to.
Right.
And I think that there's not a lot of transitioning that KD would have to do to come back to the Golden State Warriors. And I think he's primed to challenge for a championship. He knows the DNA. Part of the Warriors' problem now is some of these young guys kind of know what it's about, but they haven't been on the floor in prime time, experiencing it in real time. KD understands that he's closer to the end than he is to having 5 to 7 years left. So I think it would be excellent for both organizations if it came to fruition, because the Warriors have a nucleus of young players they can let go of. There's a chance that it wouldn't work to bring KD back, but I would bet that it would. Watching him play now, he's every bit the scorer that he was, I think, 3 years ago. Probably not as good defensively, but he would be a shot in the arm for the Warriors, I think.
Yeah, I could see something like a Kuminga, Wiseman, Wiggins, and maybe a pick.
No picks.
You don't think so?
No.
Not a future.
The Warriors don't give up picks because they take 30th draft picks and turn them into top 10 players. So they're not going to give up a pick.
I don't know if it would be those three would be enough, or if you'd need to add somebody else. How
about someone says Poole and Wiseman will be relatively even fiscally.
Yeah, any combination of players, the Warriors can make that happen.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, I mean, that if you had said that a month ago, I said, no way. But you know what? Yeah. After watching this last month of ball, Poole and Wiseman for KD, I might do that.
Well, it would bring you a title, I believe, this year and maybe one more because Steph and KD still have a couple of good years after this year in them, really good years, I believe. I still think they're at near the top of their game, and if you bring that back, oh my goodness, you would have a rejuvenated KD.
The Warrior fans would go crazy.
Yeah,
if KD was on the Warriors.
Well, they'd really go crazy if they had a couple more parades. Right? I mean, seriously, you want to win it? You want to win a title? That's probably the best way to do it.
Right? I think KD would be, like rejuvenated. It would be like, man, I left this thing 3 years ago or whatever after the 2019 season, and I've been in a 3-year hellish relationship.
Yeah, the KD autobiography entitled "I Left Steph for Kyrie, and I found out the Earth was round."
Yeah. And then Brooklyn gets a chance to quote take their team back because there's a lot of craziness around that organization, and it really shouldn't be that way. It should be fun to play for that organization and fun for the fans to go out and support a team that they care about. Right now, it's crazy.
And Sean Marks, he put together a really solid team. He put together Joe Harris, Spencer Dinwiddie, LeVert, and he got the D'Angelo Russell. And they were the 6th seed, I think, and Kenny Atkinson was the coach.
Would you trade Draymond? Would you trade Draymond in the deal?
Oh my goodness! If you
Draymond would retire, Draymond would not go to Brooklyn. No way.
If you were able to do that and keep one of the other guys. Yeah,
I actually believe, honestly, I think the Warriors respect the hell out of Wiggins. They love what he did for the organization, but I think that they signed him knowing that he was an attractive, movable piece if they wanted to do something down the road.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. Good stuff, guys. Let's do this. Let's pay the bills. And I've got one question to ask you guys on the way out the door as we finish up on the Krueg Show. But first, a word from our sponsors.
Larry Krueger here for Telmetrics. Thanks to Casey Bateman and the good people at Telmetrics. If you're an occupational therapist, if you're an orthopedic surgeon, a chiropractor, a physical therapist of any kind, Telmetrics is designed for you to use in your practice and will greatly benefit your patients. Telmetrics uses computer vision and artificial intelligence and provides a platform for outpatient rehab therapy services, both in the clinical and the telehealth environments. So using Telmetrics can improve your patient's experience and much more. So for all your sports injury needs, or if you're a physical rehabilitation specialist of any kind, make sure you use telmetrics.co, Telmetrix.co. And thanks to Casey Bateman and all the good people at Telmetrics for being a proud sponsor of the Krueg. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Dan Coach Emilio. Dan is a buddy, and he is a phenomenal retirement planning specialist. And you can contact him today at securemoney.com or at his number 925-628-9966. There's a lot of uncertainty in our world right now, and you want to make sure that your money is secure. That is the key. Danny's got 25 years of experience, born and raised right here in the Bay Area, and he can help you get an immediate 10% premium bonus on your principal retirement account. So give him a call, 925-628-9966. He'll make an appointment with you, and you can sit down. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of a deal. He'll consult with you and come up with a strategy to get you going to where you want to be. Once again, 925-628-9966, securemoney.com on the web. And thanks to Tony Cassera and the good people at Cassera's Italian Menswear. They are housing the Krueg Show t-shirts, and they're a proud sponsor of the show as well. The Krueg Show t-shirt, the Krueg Show podcast t-shirt is available there at their store in Dublin. Their address is 7372 San Ramon Road in Dublin, California. And go see Tony Cassera and get yourself a Krueg Show t-shirt and support the show. And special thanks to our sponsor, New York Style Italian Sausage. That's right, NewYorkStyleSausage.com is their website. Phenomenal product, whether it's the breakfast sausage, the Italian mild, the Italian spicy, the chorizo. You cannot go wrong with New York Style Italian Sausage. Once again, NewYorkStyleSausage.com. Often imitated, never equaled.
We grew up with a Sunday dinner. That means no matter how busy you were, no matter where the hell you were, you came to dinner on a Sunday night. Yeah, Sunday dinner without sausage, it's like a church without God. You know, how can you go to church if you don't believe in God? You know, and along with the sausage also became the discussions. That was discussion night. You know, it wasn't a typical family that you sit there and you're quiet, you know, and you don't talk with a mouthful. Oh no, man. Italians talk when they're eating. Italians even talk when they're sleeping. And definitely we talk with our hands. So if we can't express it through our mouth, through our lips, we express it with our hands. So, and that's what sausage is, really. It's an expression, you know, that life is good.
So New York Style Sausage was started over 70 years ago. We are the largest producer of fresh Italian sausage on the West Coast.
What makes our sausage in New York style is really the recipe came from back east, from New York, you know, from Connecticut.
If you look at all of our labels, there's maximum 4 or 5 ingredients, which we're really proud of.
There's no preservatives, no MSG, fresh in, fresh out.
The pork comes in fresh, goes out fresh. There's never any freezing throughout the process. We've always used fine quality cuts. We're never gonna deter from that. It's one of the reasons why our sausage is so good. I guarantee you put our sausage up against anybody else's from a flavor standpoint, no one will beat it, hands down.
Hey, do yourself a favor and do me a favor. Go buy a package of the New York style Italian sausage. Guaranteed you will love it, guaranteed.
You know, we're coming down to the final stretch of the show. Welcome back to the Krueg Show. Larry Krueger, Dan Coach Amelia, Frank Red with you on a Thursday night. Make sure you catch me tomorrow at noon. I'll be on with Guru on 95.7 The Game from noon to 3 p.m. All right. I saw the odds today for the Wooden Award, which is basically like the Heisman Trophy for college basketball. And I mean, it just shows where college basketball is. And I do this every year, the last 4 or 5 years, because it's amazing. It used to be Jordan and Worthy and Perkins and Ewing and Elijah. I mean, they used to just have these household names and incredible players. Chris Mullen. These are the favorites, the co-favorites. Does anybody want to guess who the favorite to win the Wooden Award is this year?
The guy from Gonzaga?
Drew Timme? Yeah, he's the third choice, 15-2. Drew Timme, who's probably older than KD. Drew Timme, he's like on his 9th year. I think he's been there longer than few. Timme over to Adam Morrison. Morrison back to Timme. No, but yeah, Drew Timme's 15-2. He's the third choice. Danny, you want to throw a guess of who could be the player of the year in college basketball? The favorite.
Who's that incoming? Isn't there a kid at North Carolina that's
well, the favorite actually is a North Carolina kid, but it's not an incoming guy.
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, it's I can't remember his name but I just remember the guy on North Carolina.
Armando Bacot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's a nice big man, but nothing crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, just a guy, him and Oscar Tshiebwe, who Tshiebwe is interesting. He started at West Virginia for Huggins and then transferred to Kentucky. He's a Hulk, but he's like 6'8", 260, and he's a rebounder. He's a great rebounder, but both those guys are 7-1. But that just tells you where we're at. Armando Bacot and Oscar Tshiebwe are your favorites to win the Wooden Award. The next on the list is Drew Timme, then Marcus Sasser, Caleb Love, Julian Strather, Jaime Jaquez Jr. from UCLA, Jalen Wilson. I think he played for Michigan, maybe. Nick Smith, Tiger Campbell, and the big center for the Wolverines, Hunter Dickinson. But everybody else is more than 20-1. But isn't that amazing what college basketball has become? I mean, I love college basketball and I'll still watch it. Heck, I'm the kind of guy who I could watch, Colorado State play Nevada on like a Thursday night. I may have to have a little money on it, but you know what I'm saying? I can watch it. But for the most part, it's not even close to what college basketball used to be. I mean, it's amazing how much college basketball has slipped as far as notoriety, name recognition. I mean, think of college football in the 70s or 80s, and then think of it today. And then think of college basketball in the 70s and 80s, and think of it today.
180.
You can make an argument that college football is bigger and better than ever.
Yes,
it is.
And college basketball is nowhere close to what it used to be.
Well, the reason for that with college basketball is the one and done now, where before I could remember when Jabbar, when he was Lou Alcindor at UCLA, he wasn't even allowed to play as a freshman.
Yeah.
He had to, and they couldn't even dunk back then. It's crazy. But the game had so many stars, and you knew they were going to be there for minimum of 2, if not 3 or 4 years. And so you had that constant, fluidity, and you just had those guys coming back, and you got all those different players. I remember the Big East you talked about. You mentioned Ewing and Chris Mullen and the guys from
Jerome. Charles Smith.
Georgetown, UConn, unbelievable conference, and now that thing's blown up.
If you go to NBADraft.net and look at the mock draft for next June's NBA draft, right? Victor Wembanyama, number 1 international player. Then for the next 20 picks. Scott Henderson, who plays in the G League, Brandon Miller, who plays for Bama, Darren Whitehead, who plays for Duke, Nick Smith plays for Arkansas, for Musselman, GC Jackson, who plays for South Carolina, Miller, who plays for Florida State. These guys are all freshmen. Every single one of these guys is freshman. There's not a non-freshman or international player until 17 or 18 in this mock draft. So just kind of goes to show you that the one and done, the NBA draft has become totally a speculative deal.
Yeah. And the kid that came out of Gonzaga, the big Chet Holmgren,
should have stayed, got stronger.
Should have stayed because of his physical body makeup. He's so thin. He needed to he's now playing with grown men, and, he got basically hurt on a move. He was trying to stop LeBron on a fast break, and it's like he just turned like a pretzel and he just snapped.
I know. I said it on draft night when we were all here. I said, Carl said he loved Chet Holmgren. I love Chet Holmgren.
Yeah.
His game is awesome. And I think in the open floor NBA game, he has a potential to be way better in the pros than he was in college. But when you look at those ankles, and I'm looking at running up and down an NBA hardwood, man, if I was his agent, I'd say, look, go back, play one more year at Gonzaga, and just sit there, and every day I want you to go into the weight room and just do leg presses. Just do leg presses, strengthen your calves, strengthen your ankles, strengthen your structure of your knee, your quads, your legs, because you're getting ready to run a marathon and you have virgin legs. And you're not KD. There can only be one KD, and it's worked for KD, but he's also kind of built that way. He's just real sinewy, and he's the aberration. So I think Holmgren's special, but But yeah, very sad that he's going to miss this whole year. And he's a great, great talent. But I was worried about catastrophic injuries, and we'll see where it goes. Good stuff, guys. We went through a lot of topics. You got a final thought on the way out the door? Astros go up 3-2 in the World Series. Warriors have yet to win on the road. Niners in the middle of the bye week. Kyrie, nothing more we can say. And Thursday football, Eagles stay undefeated. Got a quick thought on the way out the door?
I think tomorrow against the Pelicans, you'll see Kuminga on the floor getting an opportunity, and I wouldn't be surprised if Rollins gets an opportunity as well.
That would be nice. I like Ryan Rollins. Good kid. Danny, you got a final thought?
Yeah, I think the commissioner of baseball tells Major League Baseball, this thing's got to end Saturday night. We're not playing Game 7 against the NFL.
There you go. All right, guys. Last person in the chat says trade Kuminga. All right, JK. He says, and always handles JK sucks. Okay, on that positive note. Have a great night, guys. We'll talk to you again next time.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Here for whatever you bring me, getting handled. I answer to no one, I don't need to hassle. Yeah, we ain't never fall back.